Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I want you to take a look at the image on your screen. Take a look at the image on your screen. There's a comparison being made between 1968 and 2018. Now that comparison, wow, oh my goodness. Nothing much has changed in black home ownership. It's pretty much the same. You have 41.1% in 1968 and 41.2% in 2018. Okay, now I know a lot about why that is, but let me continue with the statistics here. We have black incarceration. Now let's take a look at black incarceration. You have 604 per 100,000 people in 1968. In 2018, you have 1,730 per 100,000. Okay, so that has grown tremendously. Black unemployment has actually gotten worse. It was 6.7% back in 1968. Now it's 7.5% in 2018. But even with that, I'm looking at those numbers when they say black unemployment. I know it's higher than that. I don't know where they pull these numbers from, but that's what they have. So anyway, it's gotten worse. And so the same with black home ownership and black incarceration, it's gotten worse. Now, when you look at the tagline, it says separate and unequal still. Now, you will have those who are part of the ruling class, not that they're ruling, but they look like the ruling class. You know, they look like the upper 1%. They don't have the money that they do, but you know how it goes. Just because you look like the upper 1% or the ruling class, you kind of psych out your own mind into thinking that you're still better than other people, right? And so this is what I have to say to those who are going to say, well, black people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and they need to stop committing crimes and they need to get out and look for jobs. It's funny to me when I hear people say such things, because let me tell you about the black home ownership thing. I remember when we lived in Michigan and when we first set out to buy not our first home, because we had rental property before we actually owned the home that we lived in. But when we set out to buy a home that we were actually living in, the interest rates were so high that even our white neighbor across the street, when he found out what our interest rate was, actually it was his wife, when she found out what our interest rate was, she was like, oh my God, are you kidding? We're like, yeah, that's what they're charging us, you know? And so it made it more difficult to even afford a house note. When you have black people who are being charged 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%, and you have white people being charged 1 and 2% for home mortgages, of course, it's going to be more difficult to own a home. Not to mention we're locked out of certain neighborhoods, and the prices, interest rates, and all of those things, and closing costs make it literally impossible. And then for also the fact that they don't even want to give you a loan, you see. And then let's look at the black incarceration. A black person will go to prison for an extended amount of time for a small minor crime, but you'll have a white person who will commit something heinous like some type of child molestation or something like that, and they will get 6 months. And so for those who say, well, you need to stop committing crimes, well, look at how you all are treated versus how we are treated. A white man will spend 2 years in prison for something that a black man will spend 20 years in prison for. We see the statistic. We know the reality, because this is the reality that many of our people live. And so I've already figured a long time ago that it's not even worth trying to convince certain people that we are having hardships. It's ridiculous to try to convince them, even with the black unemployment. I remember more than 20 years ago, I went to apply for a job, and we had to take all these tests. And I took all of these tests and I did very well. They had a certain requirement for your typing speed and all of this, and I far surpassed what they said was required. But the look on this white woman's face told me that she wasn't going to give me a call back. I knew she wasn't going to give me a call back. And it's like the whole atmosphere in that room as I interviewed, as I took the test, all of that. And the look in her face was just, to me, diabolical. It's like, why are you sitting there looking at me with such hate, woman? I was in my 20s at the time. The nicest person you could ever meet. I was one of the nicest persons you could ever meet, but this woman, this white woman, who looked to be in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, as I'm sitting there taking this test, the look in her eyes and the look in her face and her very uncordial attitude towards me told me that I wasn't going to get a call back. So when I called back to inquire as to whether or not I was going to get the job, no, we found someone else. And so what do we do in those situations? I remember another time I was applying for a job, and what ended up happening is, because I usually put on a Becky voice when I am making certain calls, and this was up in Michigan, y'all, so I usually change my voice. What ended up happening with this particular time, this man, he called and he heard the answering machine, in which it was someone else's voice on the answering machine. It was like a message that a black person would leave on their answering machine, beyond my control because it wasn't my phone. But anyway, when they heard the voice, they said, "No buckwheats. We don't hire buckwheats." And so I called back to see what was going on with this. And he just kept yelling in the phone, "No buckwheats. We don't hire buckwheats." And then he slammed the phone in my face. I called back at least twice because I wanted to confront the person who was doing this to me, right? That's not the only situation. I've had so many more, but yet you have reprobates who believe that we are just talking out of the side of our necks, like we don't know what we're talking about, like the experiences we have are isolated. I've had so many experiences, and maybe this is why I talk about the black experience so much. And it's unfortunate that people get frustrated. I mean, these people get frustrated. I had one white woman come on my channel the other day, frustrated because I was talking about an incident that happened to a black person. And it's like, why are you frustrated about these things? I think it was the video where I made the comparison with Trayvon Martin and the Kyle kid. Okay. If she hasn't removed, I pinned her comment to the top. So if she hasn't removed it, you can see it there. But many times when they get swamped with too many responses, they will remove the comment. But anyway, I don't understand why people get frustrated when someone talks about the problems that they are having in their communities at the hands of other people, or even their own personal problems. Why do you get frustrated? So many of them get really frustrated, as if it's piercing to their ears to hear of our experience. But anyway, back to what this image is showing. It is showing you that there is a systematic problem in this country that this country refuses to face, and you have people who support this system because they are on the receiving end of the benefits of this system. So therefore, the only thing that they can do is lie to themselves and say that we are the problem, and that they are tired of hearing us of us whining, hearing about us and our problems and our woes. They don't want to hear about it. They feel like they're being accused of something, and so they say that they're not going to take it anymore. As a matter of fact, I had one of my white viewers send me something, some statistics, or should I say not statistics, but some words or verbiage from white people who are tired of hearing about black suffering at the hands of white people. And they say they're not going to take it anymore. Is that a threat? I'm like, what? You're not going to take it anymore? So if we had that same attitude, of we're not going to take any more of this, then these people would have a hissy fit. Anyway, there is no point in trying to convince anyone that we have some troubles in this country. No point in trying to convince them because they're just not going to see it. Regardless to what type of statistics or what type of news, they won't see it. And there's no point in us even trying to get them to see it. But anyway, for those of you who are black and you don't believe the numbers, you don't believe reality, and you say the same things, just like Candace Owens and many others, Larry Elders and what's that other guy's name? Jeff Peterson? Not Jeff Peterson. What is his name? Jesse Peterson. And countless others. They believe that everything is equal. Separate and equal. But for them, together and equal. They believe that everything is equal and that we are just talking out of the side of our necks. Anyway, I'm done with this video. Of course, I have much more that I can say, but I would be just rambling at that point. But for those who just don't see that there are some issues in this country, here it is right before your eyes. Here it is, right here. Right here. It looks like everything has either stayed near the same or gotten worse. That's it. With that, I am out. Notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.